Hello, and welcome to this week's Glasstire Top Five. It is the week of April 9th, 2020. I'm Christina Rees.
And I'm Brandon Zech.
And we are both at home, obviously, during this coronavirus hunkering down period. And what we're going to do this week is essentially we're going to do a standard top five, but we are going to use our own 5-minute tours series to pick the top five. We're picking the work that we want to put on this list this week because we like it. The same way we do with regular top fives. It's just we're using the tours as our portal to see the work instead of going to the galleries to see the work.
And there might be some more of these in the future. I mean, we've received so many 5-minute tours in at this point. I think we have more than, what, Christina, more than 80 tours?
We have almost 90 today, and by the end of the day today, there will be more than 90, and we've got some waiting still in the queue. I mean, we're mostly putting them up in the order that they're coming in. We're not picking really necessarily the first week or so of videos that came in for the most part because we've already done a top five. That was about who shot sort of the most fun videos. And you can go back a couple of weeks and see that.
Pioneering the medium, as it is.
Yes, exactly. And actually, I still appreciate it when the people who are making the videos are having fun with it. You know, Fort Worth Community Arts Center, Giovanni Valderas and company have been making very entertaining videos for us. I just put one up today with the Fred Spalding. I loved it. It was educational and funny. But yeah, so let's jump into what our top five is this week.
So number 5 is the show Texas Women, A New History of Abstract Art at the San Antonio Museum of Art. So Christina, we actually had the chance to see this show in person before this whole situation happened. We're putting the show at 5 because it has been up for a little while. It opened in February. But I mean, if we're picking 5-minute tours based on the work that's in the tours and just kind of being able to tell the meat of what's happening, like, I mean, this is a great video. It has Suzanne Weaver, the curator of the show, talking about pieces within the show. This is a show that's focused on female artists working in Texas who make abstract art. So Toni Lassell, Dorothy Hood, Susie Rosemarin, Terrell James,
Catherine Lee, Annette Lawrence. Man, it is a great looking show. Suzanne Weaver absolutely knows what she's doing with this kind of thing. It's so nice to see her on the video walking us through. She's incredibly articulate. She knows exactly what she's doing. We can vouch for how good the show looks in person, but it's so nice to have the tour from San Antonio Museum of Art on the site and to have the curators walking us through the show. So number 4 on our list this week is Barbara Atwell. She is at the Elizabeth Ney Museum in Austin, which is a City of Austin museum run by Oliver Franklin. This was kind of a weird favorite for both of us. Now, she's a Texas artist. I'm not sure if she lives in Austin or Houston. She does felted works. The quality of the video itself isn't particularly helpful, and yet we still responded to the work.
I mean, these pieces they kind of float between being charming and being like macabre and almost ritualistic.
Yeah, they're totemistic, aren't they? I think she picked up some really good old traditional felting techniques, and she uses it to make these kind of totemistic, these wall hangings and these kind of creatures that sit on surfaces, and that's an interesting space to begin with. This very old, cool.
It's almost like a castle.
Yeah, it's almost like a castle.
It was a space that, and most of the work normally in that space is work by Elizabeth Ney, who was a sculptor who lived in Austin, a little more kind of classical in sculpture techniques. So they've kind of been opening this space and trying to do different things with it and giving it over to people that have managed to do some really interesting installations in it. So number 3 this week is a show, another show in Austin. It's a 2-person show, Bob Schneider and Margie Kriner at Yard Dog Art. First of all, this video perfectly encapsulates Yard Dog Art. It kind of has this rock and roll soundtrack to it. But these little dioramas that Margie Kriner makes are so charming. And I don't know, when I first saw this video, I was just kind of taken by how well these little dioramas played on video and how much I would love to see them in person. it also just personally, and I think this is kind of a collective feel at this time, I find it kind of ironic how much I love these little tiny dioramas that are little like interior spaces when we're all kind of cooped up in our houses. And then the paintings of Bob Schneider, longtime Austin based musician and artist. The work is great. There's like some written poetry on them and the paintings, and it's a really nice kind of overview of the space and overview of these two artists.
So number 2 on our list this week is out of Austin, or it's actually out of whatever city that Roberto Jackson Harrington happens to be in. It's Jade Walker at the Museum of Pocket Art. Now, one of the things I love about this video is Roberto Jackson Harrington, who is the Museum of Pocket Art. He asks artists to make work that he can specifically keep in his pocket and pull out and show to people in person. He takes them through the show, and it is a show. And Jade Walker made a really beautiful, very appropriate piece for this. She's actually sampled skin color from Roberto Jackson Harrington himself and created these little booklets. I love the video because he's walking you through it the same way he would if you saw him in person and asked to see the show. And it's a good way for the rest of Texas to get kind of an introduction to what the Museum of Pocket Art is. This is not new. He's been doing it for years. In fact, it has figured into top fives before. It's a nice video made by a good artist. RJ Harrington is also an artist. And it's a good way to see Jade Walker's work. She is an Austin-based artist as well.
I like that in a sense this might be one of the most widely seen shows at the Museum of Pocket Art.
You know, it's interesting too. It brings up the idea that once the worst of this is lifted and we're all getting to go out and see shows again, I'm not saying RJ Harrington needs to do this, but will he continue to make these shows available via video since he shot a video? Like how many of these new things that we're instituting will continue on after coronavirus is kind of played out? We don't know. We've had people ask us this question as well. Will we continue to show 5-minute tours? We're all figuring this out just as you are all figuring this out as we go along.
And number 1 this week is a show in San Antonio by San Antonio-based artist Chris Sauter. The show is called Extraction Economy, and it's at Dock Space Gallery, which is kind of on the San Antonio artist-run gallery circuit. I think it's normally the second Saturday round of spaces.
So Chris Sauter, a terrific Texas artist. I'm sure many of you, if not almost all of you, have heard of him. He's one of our home state gems, and this is a gem of a show. It's almost like a capsule show. It's new work. He took a trip through the Oklahoma Panhandle, and its themes of as he writes, its themes of resilience, sacrifice, and removal arise alongside images of agriculture, oil production, and heritage. These are actually beautiful works. There's video, there's drawing, there's this beautiful kind of collage of a cutaway view of oil reserves underneath the surface of the earth. And it's also talking about colonialism and extraction and surrender, the way people surrender to landscape, the way the landscape has to surrender to human development. But there's also this interesting set of postcards that you can take away, and he's taken the Twister kind of from the movie Twister, these great little drawings, and as you go through the postcards, and as each one is taken away, the tornado does more of its destruction. It's kind of like a flip book, basically. You can take one page from the flip book. He's the one who walks you through this tiny, wonderful show. We just put it up today, and it's nice to see and hear from Chris Sauter, of course. And
I love the gesture of like a take-home component of an exhibition. I think it's wonderful. It's so funny to have that component in a show during this time, because it has a postcard component, which is very much of the time, but it has the take-home component, which just is not happening right now.
I know. So there's going to be a stack of postcards there, and we can't get to them. That's what I was thinking. I was like, I want one of those postcards. It's like, we're not going to get one of those postcards. Mm-hmm. But you can see him flipping through it, and at least he gets to illustrate how it works, which is nice.
Yeah, and if you haven't sent in your 5-minute tour, if you are a space, if you run a space, if you're part of an artist collective, if there's a show up that isn't yet up on Glasstire in a 5-minute tour, take a video, send it to us. We're always looking for more, and we want to get your art in front of people.
Absolutely. All right, so that is it. Stay safe, stay well, and sit there in front of your screen and see some art.
See some art.